Hi, welcome to the Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. Welcome, Simba, man. Welcome to the show. Uh,
Welcome. What's up? Thank you.
yes, man. Well, we're going to dive right in. I have a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss today, and actually, it was inspired by you on the show that you and I had a couple of weeks ago. You brought up or you made a comment where you said women are teaching basically black men or young men how to be men, and you gave several examples of how that was going to be done, and then we explored the demasculinization, excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied, of black men, basically giving black men feminine traits in a nutshell. So we explored that a little bit, but on the show after that, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine, Mr. Troy Bowles, and I posed the question. I said, are women teaching men how to be men? Specifically, are black women and women of color teaching young men how to be men and instilling those values into those men? So we're going to dive right in, Simba, and I want to ask you, the question that I'm going to pose to you as we explore this is, and I pose this to my audience, what are the values that these women are teaching, or what are the values women are teaching our young men? Is it positive? Is it negative? Simba, dive right in.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me back on the show. Said it was a blast last time, so I'm definitely looking forward to picking up right where we left off.
Yes,
When it
yes,
comes to
yes.
the how African American women or black women are raising our children, like I said, I don't know if it's a negative thing, but it's definitely from a female perspective,
Right.
which can be dangerous in these current times where males are making and having all the power. I believe that if we ever can get back to a equarian or egalitarian or a society where we're running off emotions and feels, then I think,
Right.
for a woman to have a louder say, or maybe even a 50% say in the raising of a young man might be vital. But in these times, which are so confrontational and so aggressive and so
Yes.
so
Very
driven by
aggressive.
masculinity, for
Yes.
us to be setting feminine values forth, that puts us in a dangerous spot, and that all comes from. And I don't believe that African American women did anything wrong, really.
Thank you.
The men just punked out. The
Right.
men punked out and didn't do what it was necessary, or didn't do what was necessary for them to do in order to create, you understand,
And let me,
environments, communities for black families to survive so that women can be feminine. And also, what you
mhm.
got to understand when it comes to America is that our American government is more, how would you say, more receptive to the females, African American female struggle, which is more of a passive aggressive struggle.
Right.
They're the ones that told us, hey boy, you got to button hey boy, you got to get right to get in. Where a male never feels I have to get right to get in. I create what I want in my own area. That's what men do. Men never say, oh, y'all have to put a hat on. Well,
But
then I'm
let's
just
talk
not
about
putting
that.
it.
I'm glad you said that because you brought up a couple different things. But right now, what you brought up was the fact that as a man, you're going to teach your son how to be a creator, how to create opportunities, how to not walk through doors, how to build and create his own door for other
Right,
people to walk through. So those are
right.
the things that men teach or instill are supposed to, what from the values you and I have been taught. Are
Now, can,
supposed to teach. Hold on, give me 1 second. Are supposed
mhm,
to teach their kids, right? So,
right.
excuse me. So on the other hand, you suggested that when women are instilling and teaching young men these values, it could be very dangerous. So what I want to ask you is this: elaborate on that. How can it be dangerous? Where's that opinion based from? Give me some examples of how you feel it can be dangerous and why.
Well, they can be dangerous because the basis of how African American women have been taught to deal with racism in America comes from fear.
Okay.
That's
Tell me a
that's
little bit more about that fear.
that's where it
Yes.
comes from. So when your mama always tells you stuff, don't you date a white girl. Don't you, when the police say something, you cut those dreadlocks off your head. Everything that we're taught is from a fear aspect. You know, you got to be twice as good. Why? Why do I have to be twice as good? Why are you putting in me that I'm already half the person? See, that's always what man would always tell you. You're better than anybody. Whoever you get in the classroom with, you
But,
better beat them.
but
And you
Simba,
better
hold that
compete with them
thought.
on the highest level. Go ahead.
Hold that thought real quick. Now, in the woman's defense, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about black men, right? Men of color.
Right.
So I would digress and say it's not coming from, I would say yes, there's, it's peppered with fear, but I think the majority of it is coming from survival. Keyword survival. When you're on plantations and you're in a country that wants to kill black men, as a woman, you want to protect your black son, your minority son. You want to protect him at all means. So you teach him survival tactics that are going to allow him to grow to manhood, not be hung. When you're on a plantation, and your dad may be sold 2 days from now, you're trying to teach him family and holding on to the little simple things that remind him of where he comes from. So again, I want to digress from fear or pose another option of where this is coming from is survival peppered with fear. But having said that, Simba, I agree with you. Teaching and instilling fear into men creates a space where we're not creators. It puts us in a space to where we're subservient and to where we're, for lack of a better term, from a businessman's standpoint, to where we're no longer bosses, we're employees. And I'd rather
And
teach my son how to be a boss than whether to be an employee. But again, elaborate on that a little bit. I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off, but go
no,
ahead.
you went down the right tunnel, and exactly what I was talking about. Just like there are certain things that go along with combat that you can't get away from the blood. You can't. When you get in a fight with somebody, you're gonna get a cut lip. You're gonna get a broken nose. But after that, the healing that you get from yourself, from understanding that you're not made of glass, and the respect
Right.
you get from your whoever it is that you're fighting cannot be that can't be replicated any other way but that fight. You see, so African Americans are constantly trying to teach their men how to go about this Western American world without engaging in a fight, where a man will tell you how to prepare yourself for the fight that is inevitable.
You're
There's
talking
no
about
way to get
survival of
away
the
from the
fittest,
fight.
baby. You're talking about the
Yeah,
jungle.
right,
We
right,
live in
right.
the
But
jungle.
see,
Drop
but
me
see,
off. We gonna do that.
now there's different kind of women though, because if me and you sat down and watched 300, the movie 300, when she's talking to her king, she tells him, "Come back on your shield." See, so there's a whole the thing that goes with us in this country is so deep because African American were the first ones in the house for us. They would
Right.
not have a black man 6'6" looking like Shaquille O'Neal walking around at night. It
Hmm.
was the women who got into the house first. So once they learned the rules of being in the house, they came back and taught it to their husbands and their kids in order to try to get them into the house to a better life too.
Survival, i.e.,
Survival.
survival.
Right. So when you have the men come up and say, well, hold on, I don't want to go in that house, Bessie. Now you have the divide. And now you have the uprising of the women's movement, which I believe was the biggest detriment to the civil rights and the black movement ever is
But
once
let's
women.
stop right there. Hold that thought. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about this divide. So
Okay.
elaborate on that divide a little bit. When you say this divide started, when the guy came in and said, "Bessie, no, we're not going to do that." So
Yeah.
so I equate that to the struggle. So
Mm-hmm.
are you suggesting, because I believe the struggle and began with women and ended up partnering with men. So are you saying that the struggle came from men to women? I mean, from men to women or women to men. Do you understand the question I'm asking?
One more time, kind of give it to me again what you're asking so I can answer
Okay.
it the right.
The question I'm asking is, when you suggested that the man, you gave the analogy of Bessie basically telling her sons or her husband to be calm, be patient. This is how you do it. And
Right.
her husband coming in or son coming into the picture going, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it our way. Okay. Now, Bessie at the same time can say, you can do it your way or our way, but you're going to end up in the kill or you're going to end up hung or dead. So do it your
Right.
way. Do you want to survive or do you want to be dead? Do you want to survive and teach the next generation or do you want to be
Hmm.
aggressive and die? So I think in our quest of survival, as we're trying to survive in America, we had to balance our aggressiveness with passiveness. We had to find a balance with that. So now, as we come into the 2000s and we've gone through the share picking and sharecropping, we've gone through the marching, we've gone through the picketing, we've gone through integration, we've gone through all these different things, and now we're at a point to where you're suggesting and you're saying to me that we're going to do it our way.
Right. And also by the
Does it make
man,
sense?
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And also what we have to understand is that when the man comes into the shed and Bessie says, this is how we're going to do it. And he says, no, I don't want to do it. When she says, okay, now you can do it your way, but that's going to get you killed. And she doesn't agree with him. It goes back to our whole way is to prepare black men to not fight instead of
Yes.
preparing for the inevitable fight. So that goes. So what Bessie needs to do is say, okay, you don't want to. No, I ain't going. Okay, then that's just how we ain't gonna do. And if they kill us, then they just kill us. And I have to kill all of us because we're not gonna go. We're not gonna break. And that goes back to the fighting analogy where it's like, okay, you're gonna fight. You're gonna get punched. Okay, you're gonna lose some teeth. Okay, you might even get a black eye. You can't say, well, then I don't want to fight. No,
Old
this has
school to new
to happen.
school.
You see what I'm saying? You
Old
have to
school.
happen.
You're
So
talking old school now.
yeah, old school to new school. So it has to happen. So that's what I'm saying, and that's natural. That's a woman's natural what are characteristics. When her son falls, he falls, he starts to cry. She wants to grab. Don't rob a woman of what her natural ability is to do. Kiss her son and make sure it's supposed to be okay. But what the man is being, what the African American male is being robbed of is the dad who would quickly grab his son and say, "Now stop crying. I know you're hurt. Stop crying. Get control of your emotions and let's move on."
But a
Because
woman
mama,
did that for me. A woman did
huh?
that for me. My
Yes.
grandmother did
Now,
that for me.
now, if you could go back to your whoever the woman was with your grandma, I guarantee you she grew up in a heavily male-dominated area. There was
Yes.
probably a lot of strong males when she was a kid growing up to show her, no, 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 and she passed those values down. Like this is how you make a man. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, I agree. But again, remember, those values came from a woman to me, even
Yeah.
though she
Oh, it
was
don't
the
matter.
filter. She was
Yeah,
the
don't matter the
filter.
messenger.
So,
Don't matter the messenger.
so before we go into the next segment and take our break, I want to be clear. Lay out, give me two to four values, two values that you feel are positive values that are being extended. And I think we've talked about that with old school. But give me some ways that you feel that it's detrimental or negative for black men and what some of those negative values they're teaching us are. Leave that with us before we go into the break.
Well, the negative values that I believe that are being passed down to us from women, and it's just happening, is the monetization of the black male. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What are your worth? What can you monetize? What money can you make? We have to stop that. That is an insane way to think about. Oh, how high can you jump? How fast can you run? Oh, my son's gonna go to college and get some. No, what are you doing that for? Stop thinking. Stop putting your physical body and your soul into monetization. That's what black people do so much. Oh, my son growing up, he gonna get some money. But stop. Life is about so much more than getting money. The millionaires, the people who have billions and millions, they're not worried about money. They're worried about health and mental wealth and family stability. The last thing they're worried about is how much money, you know what I'm saying, their son is going to be worth. And I see that as I go around all the black communities. It's all we're putting into the kids at a young age to monetize themselves.
Let's talk about that. Let's hold that thought. Let's talk about that on the next segment. We'll be right back on the Conversation Shop. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Conversation Shop with my very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. Simba, welcome to the Conversation Shop. Well, we were having a very, very good conversation on the first segment where we were exploring the fact that women are teaching young men how to be young men. Women are teaching men how to be men, and they're instilling the values of manhood into those men. So Simba and I were discussing the good and the bad as it relates to that. And prior to ending the first segment, we were talking about the good old money, the good old dollar. You know, money is the root of all evil. Isn't that what the Bible says, Simba?
That's what the Bible says. I want to know, why do they ask for it in every church then?
Yeah,
If
they
that's
had to.
what they,
Yes, they do. They ask for it every Sunday. You
yeah.
know. But we talked about, let's elaborate on that. I think that was a great a segue into this segment. What I think, Simba, is that's at the root of a lot of the problems we're having in our community. The it's like money is God. Money is God now. You know, money is church. Money is religion to the majority of us now. That quest for that mighty dollar, or to look like we have the dollar, right? You know, I
Right.
love when I posted on my IG a picture of Bill Gates and other billionaires. And one of the reasons I posted it up, not to celebrate those men, but really to elaborate on what they're wearing, what they have on. They and the funny part is they had no name brand on. And one of the main things when I spoke with
Got Skechers shoes on their feet.
exactly one of the main things that I asked someone that I was privileged enough to meet, I said, why don't you wear things, you know, any name brand? He laughed. He said, why would I wear somebody else's clothes when it's not making me money? Why would I wear somebody else's items when I can have my own things? You know, that was the main things that he was saying. So why would I spend all that money on those things? Because the value is in your mind. It's in the mind of the person that's buying it. If Jay-Z said Louis Vuitton was garbage and was worth $10, people would probably stop buying it. It's
I know I
all
would. I know I would, Hope. If you say that, I ain't buying it no more. Not that I can't even buy it. I might have one Louis Vuitton sock. Go ahead.
exactly though. But you understand what I'm saying. So it's that quest for that mighty dollar. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
got young girls strip club bound, thoughts, right? They want to be IG models, showing body, booty, everything that they can for that dollar, to get somebody else, to get a man that they think has money, to give them this perceived life that they think they want, to have all these things in order to try to be happy when they've never learned how to be happy with themselves. So elaborate on your comment a little bit for me.
Well, it just goes back to, this country is a capitalistic country. This country runs on money. And so you're going to have a lot of money running around this country. The people that seem to be doing the best in this country are the people that understand who they are before they come into money.
Right.
You got to understand. Like, one of the biggest things that came about to push an integration was sports. People, a lot of people sat back and said, wait a second, we can't have all these black athletes. We're telling them they can't go to our white schools. So what's going to happen when they start 10 years from now? See, that's another thing that you have to do.
Right.
White people, Asian people, all people except African Americans are able to see 20, 30 years into the future. So you had the people back in the 1930s who were sitting back thinking like, wait a second, in 1970, all this it's going to be integration everywhere. And these black people are going to have colored baseball leagues. They're going to have colored basketball leagues. So let's get them integrated into our system, hence the money. Now we're going into their communities, dropping off big bags of cash to single parent mothers, moms,
Right,
dad, whatever happened. Yeah, whatever happened with dad, he ain't there. So now you got mom who's basically she's working 3 jobs. Here I come with some money, and now the son's.
But you're talking about power though. Now we're talking about power
who was a baby. Now watch the process though. So now, because we're talking about a whole generation here, where they gave money, they came in, got the blessings of the son. A lot of sons became the power of the household now.
Right, through
now
money.
You're doubly messed up. Yeah,
but hold that thought. You talking about that? Hold that thought though. That's what crack did too. Now think about the crack. Man, listen to me. During our age, when you had 14, 15-year-old young men whose mama told them, you go get that money, coming home with thousands of dollars, taking care of home, you the man of the house. Now you got your mama friends looking at you. Now these are people that could be your mama. Now they want to be with you because of the mighty dollar.
Now hold that thought, Sad. Now I'm going to go back to a movie that I know we all know, The Bronx Tale.
Yes.
What happened when little Colosimo came in with all that fistful of money from the dice game?
Oh,
What did his mom say? His mom
wait
said,
a minute, we could
second.
use that money.
We could use that money. He looked her in her face, man, things. And he walked his son outside and said, if it's going to be a fight, it's going to be a fight, but I'm not running. And his son seen that.
Right.
You don't run from what is right. Now, he would have never got that lesson if his father wasn't in the house. So what I want your viewers to think about is, if you've seen The Bronx Tale,
yes,
I
know it well.
Whole
great example.
Generation of Colosinos who don't have the dad to say, we're bringing this money back.
We're bringing this money back. Why? Now, elaborate. Why? I know why, but I want you to tell my audience. Why did he make on The Bronx Tale? Why did he make Colosimo bring that money back, despite the fact that his mother said, "Oh, we could use the money"?
Because to me, he was teaching his son that there are things in this world, in life, that are more important
than money.
Than this.
Right.
You don't let this make you make a decision. You make a decision with this.
Your principles. You're talking about your values and your
yes,
the
values,
things you live and die by, what you believe in.
Yes. Those are all man things. That's not a woman don't know about that stuff. Those are things are foreign. The loyalty, honor is as foreign to women as emotions and glam stuff should be to men.
Now let me stop you right there. Now you brought an interesting point. So loyalty, honor, honor and commitment are foreign to women. Is that what you're saying?
It's not unless they're giving it to their man. You know what I'm saying? And that comes from that's because of us. That comes from who they are together. But I'm saying just giving loyalty to somebody for no apparent reason. Why you think women ain't got no friends?
So do you think? I love what you're saying. Wait a minute, gotta ask you this question
right now. Show me girls who got and they might be a few, but show me girls who just like, I got like 10, 20 friends. We all grew up together.
No, they never. Most women don't. Most women don't have a lot of friends. So
and they can't even bring like a guy. We grew up with guys. Said, I'm working with Said's woman comes in. I can, hey, how you doing? And said, no, that's my brother. He ain't trying nothing with my woman.
Exactly.
It don't matter how close two women are. When her man comes in and, hey, how you doing? You better back up, B word.
Right. No trust, right? So it's the value that these women are showing of non-trust.
Non-trust, which
hatefulness.
Said, stop. Your show's about to get shut down.
Enviness.
We're about to get
envy.
Deep.
Wait a minute. Are you instilling that and teaching that into your men? Are you teaching that to your boys? Teaching them to be jealous, envious, hateful? Is that what you're teaching? And is that being emulated out in the community with black on black crime?
It's being emulated in the community with our lack of working together. Look at the 1800s when we were at our height.
Yes.
When we worked together, it was when we were running on a patriotic mind frame. Men had the communities together.
But based on values, though, shared values brought us together. Remember that.
Shared values?
Shared values. When you get a group like the Black Panthers that inspired a large group of black men, right?
Yeah.
You had shared values that men could get behind and support. And a common enemy. Yes, they did, but the key word.
It's difficult now. It's like my friend's white, my boy's white. That's not all white people back then.
Well, the common enemy is fighting against inequality and uplifting all of us. But in order to uplift us all, we have to look back into our own communities and start with ourselves first. So in order to start with ourselves, we have to ask ourselves the very hard questions. So we have to go to our women and say, what are you teaching our kids? What are you teaching our young men? And the men have to say, we didn't, and I want to say this, women, you did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong by teaching your sons and men how to be men and how to survive. I would never say you did anything wrong. What I'm saying is the reason why we're here as a black culture goes back to strong and the backs of strong black women. But it comes a time when you have to bear arms, when it comes a time when you have to stand and be a man. And the only person that can teach a young man how to do that is another man. Would you like to elaborate on that, Simba?
I would like to elaborate on that. And I think the main thing that has to happen with our sisters, our African American women, is now it's not that you didn't do a great job getting us to this point. Like said just said, I mean, when you just spoke, said it hit me in the heart because I thought about my grandmother and my mother. They got us here, and without them, I die, and I'm not who I am.
Right.
But now it's time for them to go like this. All right, man, you take it. You guys, it's time for you guys to run it.
Right.
Don't hold on to it because our American overseers are giving you the power.
Right.
If they're giving you the power, hand it off. Here, baby. You know what I'm saying? Here you go. You know what I'm saying? We doing this, and you go ahead and run it for, you know what I'm saying, for the man. And I'm here strictly as a woman. I am your balance. You know what I mean? I don't have to be the one out the
You
front
just hit
talking.
it. You just hit it on the part. We have to start balancing each other. We need that balance.
We need the balance. We're
anytime
too feminine.
we're waiting,
I'm not saying we don't need feminine. We're just too. We got too
we
much
waited too far to the side. We're women heavy. It needs to be more balance.
That's all. That's it.
It definitely has to be more balance. And what also is, you know, we're buying into the influences of powers that want us caught up in stupidity and ignorance. I just have to put it that way. Meaning the quest for this mighty dollar, instead of, they teach us to be consumers instead of being business owners where we're creating our own money, creating our own opportunities, creating our own revenue to take care of our families. Think about this. You know, when there was conquest in the West and Native Americans were here, did you know that the United States government actually killed thousands of buffalo so the American Indian would have to be dependent on them? It was to make them dependent on the United States government for their survival. We say starving, but it was to make them do that, yes. So survival, so the things that we're experiencing, not to get off task, as a family and with our values, actually stem from the same kinds of things. Forces that push the man out of the household, forces that change the way young women think and believe now. Not that the old school has changed to where women are now supporting men having feminine characteristics, not being strong, not standing up, not being defensive, not being strong men. And those are the things that we have to change in our communities. That lack of support, because what we're having is we don't have the balance between men and women and the camaraderie and the loyalty and the connection that we're supposed to have that we see in other communities. Prior to going into the next segment, Simba, I want to let you elaborate on that.
I agree with you 100%. It's a balance that has to be needed. Just like a lot of the great men of history, John Adams, you know, any great man, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, if you want to go to them, go look at their women. Look at the story of their women. And you think just because they're not on the camera, and that's another thing. This thing right here, we have to stop chasing this adulation too. African Americans are go and chase with the adulation. We don't understand what happens behind. You know what I'm saying? Yes, he's the president of the United States, but who are the people that actually have something to do that aren't on TV talking?
Right.
That's what we want to know about. Yeah, we see Martin Luther King, we see Malcolm X, we see George Washington, JFK, we see all these people. Go meet their women, and it's their ability to stay silent and not let you know who they were. But you best believe those women were having very powerful conversations with their men. There were times when their men were weak. There were times when their men were vulnerable. And it was them saying, stand up, remember who you are, and go out here and fight this world like I know you can. So it's not about, like you just said the most important thing, it has to be a balance. And another thing is African Americans have to understand what to do with the monetization and the money that we're getting in these capitalistic times.
Hey, we're going to go into the next segment on that. We'll be right back on The Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to The Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very, very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. Simba, how you doing, baby? What you doing? That swipe? Whoop, whoop. Ain't that how they do it? You know, get it up out of here.
There I go.
But, you know, again, we're going to dive right back into the conversation. In the last segment, we were discussing values and women teaching men how to be men and the negative value of the quest for money. So we talked about that a little bit. On this segment, I want to explore how this quest for money may be influencing black on black crime. It may be influencing us in very negative ways, and how we interact with ourselves. We interact with people that look like us, other men, and how we interact with women and how we treat our women. So I want to explore that a little bit on this segment. And Simba, I'm going to give the floor to you to dive right. Actually, prior to giving the floor to you, I want to use me as an example, okay? To kind of put it in context for you a little bit. So for me, coming up, I have the good, the Huxtable, go to church every Sunday, Bible, reading your Sunday school books in the morning, all of that. And over here, I got good times, right? So in good times, as we were talking about during the break, I was taught the quest to get that dollar, to go get that dollar, right? To get money. Let's say get money. But I didn't know what really getting money was, right? I just know go get some. So outside of going get money, I knew, I didn't know what success or having money was. I had a perception of what it looked like. So I wanted to go out there and do everything that I could do to make me look like I had some money. And then as I've navigated life, gone to school, been working and being successful, whatnot, you've learned you have to, I don't want to look like money. You could keep that. I want to have the money. You understand what I'm saying? So I've done everything to put myself in that space. So having said that, from my perspective, the values that I'm seeing being emulated in our communities and minority communities and all over, quite frankly, is this quest to look like you got money. And it's manifesting itself in our communities in lack of education, murders, jealousy, envy, all these negative things. So I want to give you an opportunity to elaborate on that. Go ahead, Simba.
Sure. Well, I think that all stems because African Americans aren't mastered in any other arts or any kind of art form that doesn't require an applause or adulation from our white counterparts. This goes all the way back to, this goes from the top, all the way, anything that you can think about African Americans mastering in, sports, entertainment, it all puts us directly in competition with someone that looks like us for when we turn around, the applause of white people. And that goes all the way down to the streets. It trickles all the way down to the streets. We know subconsciously. If you think, I know black people ain't stupid. That's why I talk to them as direct as I do. You ain't stupid. You know deep down inside, when I pull the trigger and kill another African American male, the only person that could possibly be going like this is white America. That's it. Nobody else is clapping. Everybody else is wondering what the hell happened. White America is like, yep, knock another one.
So
down.
Where's that? Now we going into self-hate. So where's that hate or that numbness coming from that allows us to make those kinds of decisions without a thought?
Well, it goes back to, like I said, with the monetization of us, with everything that we do. See,
elaborate on that for me.
Well, we were handed money before or right after they just destroyed us. During the Reconstruction period, they destroyed every little infrastructure that black people were trying to create. Black Wall Street, get out of here. They destroyed everything, right? And then from that fear, they came back with bags of money, but it was only to certain people who were willing to do athletics, entertainment, certain type of acts. We're not giving any kind of money or help to the people who are talking about nation building.
So you're talking about giving money to people that were in, basically putting people of color in situations where the only people they were in competition with, so to speak, were people that looked like them. So there was nothing to lose. Right. And the gain was monetary gain without the knowledge of how to handle and manage that money. And you had people around those athletes in place to take the money from them that you had gave them anyway, so you really didn't give them anything.
Exactly.
So that's a whole nother conversation we can have.
And people, and we're, as human beings, we're creatures of what we watch, we're creatures of habit. So it's only natural if we're brought up to learn, I got to be better than, as much as I like said, that's my man, said he stay right for him. I got to be better than him. Because there's going to come a time when it's me and said on the table when some white people and I got to
No,
outperform.
not even just white, not even
No, it's white people.
other people,
It's
but
white
I want to
people.
say all
No, it's white people.
people
It's
in
white people.
power.
I'm sorry. No, listen, white people.
Okay,
Listen to me.
okay, Simple, my bad.
You
Go ahead.
have the power in this country, okay?
Right.
When you talk about rhythm and you talk about the arts, you're talking about black people, okay?
Right.
There are some white people that do it, but not enough for them to be saying you do it too.
You get no argument
artists.
with me from
You know
that.
what I'm
Go
saying?
ahead. I agree
So
with
when
that.
it comes to power in the world,
Oh,
or
we're
America,
in agreement on that then.
okay,
1,000%.
so that's
You
what I
get
mean.
no
So
argument.
when it comes to the sports teams or the heads of Walt Disney or the heads of the any
Well,
kind
who
of thing
owns
where
the
we're
sports
trying to get,
teams? Who owns
huh?
them? Who owns all the sports
Exactly.
teams? Okay,
And
so
who owns all the film companies that we're trying to be a part
right.
of? Who owns all the endorsements that we're trying to get?
Who owns the food that we're putting in our bodies?
Exactly. Who owns the food? And it even comes to the point where we understand and know, like I say, I come from a deeper level. I'm on North Side Minneapolis. I'm running into these dudes. I'm hearing them talk. I'm because I got to understand what's going on. And a lot of these dudes, I don't think would care to work with the police if they knew that they could kill black people and just get away with selling drugs.
Well, let me share this with you. I'm sorry you brought that up. And the only thing I'm going to say to you right now is you and I know of a situation that hit you and I home, and that's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
Okay, and I'm going to leave it at that.
And no, but see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that whole thing, and and those aren't isolated situations, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Those are situations when you look at Chicago, even though I do believe there might be some kind of paramilitary group doing some kind of blackface killing in Chicago, I do believe that we give the atmosphere for that.
We definitely create the atmosphere to allow people to move that way.
Yeah, if we was just hanging with each other and listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire or whatever, and everything was love, then we would so fastly be able to identify who that was. But it was just because Pookie and them was shooting 3 days ago. So now when this paramilitary group shoots up the projects, it's almost like, well, Pookie and them was shooting yesterday.
Well, listen to me. What we lost, Simba, was our community. So going back to old school values that our grandmother them taught us. See, when you had those old school values in the community, couldn't nobody come in your community. It wasn't none of that, if it was something crazy, who did it, somebody put it in check and it went away. If it was something that happened in the streets, you had what we called OGs or people who were established that knew better to let negativity exist in those spaces, because negativity means there's no money being made. So there's some smart things that come from that. So when you eliminate and you lock up and you create a situation where people are killing and don't value their lives, it keeps them. It's the never-ending story. It's the revolving door. It's poverty begets poverty begets poverty. And the only thing that we're doing, let me just add, going back to the quest to look like you got money.
Yeah, no, that's a big point. But it also goes back to African Americans in this country not understanding what to do with the true wealth and power that we have in the positions that we have. I'll give you an example.
So what is true wealth and power before you give us the example? Tell me what that is. Share with me what your view of what our true wealth and power is.
Our true wealth and power is our American intelligence, which we've gathered over since being here from 1492, our ingenuity, which allows us to create and invent, our ability to persevere, which we learned we can do through slavery, and our natural athletic. I mean, we're gifted with every possible gift you could possibly want. The only thing that we don't know how to do, is come together. Let me touch on this point.
We do know how to come together.
The early African Americans in the early 1900s, 20s, 10s, 30s, 40s, they created the infrastructure for us. But can you believe that they created the communities for us? What happened is, and this is life, I think the one thing that me and you might part ways on is I don't believe in any divine creator watching this planet. I believe he gave it life, kind of like how LeBron James's dad did. He gave LeBron James life. Now you can just be a 6'8" dude working at McDonald's, or you can go and be one of the greatest basketball players.
Well, I believe in
God.
But
either way it goes,
I respect your space.
I'm not sitting here watching you. But what I'm saying is, African Americans, we must either take responsibility for when you're in a position of power. Said you only get it once. You can't. You know what I mean? So African Americans in the 90s and the 80s, we had the boom of the politicians. You have crack. You know what I'm saying? Just let me put this in perspective, because if I can think like this, I'm one person. There should have been some group thinking like this for us. But
Okay.
I digress. Let me go back to it. So you have the boom of the most black politicians, Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Then all you guys are getting political jobs. So you have that type of power, right? Just imagine if they were thinking black. Now you have crack dealers. How many crack dealers? Man, I was running through millions of dollars. We spent millions and millions of dollars a day. Well, what should they have done with that money? Somebody might ask Simba. It's very easy. And like I say, if I can think like this, you best believe the Italians and everybody else. All the crack dealers had to do was for every day they made 100,000, go to the nearest church, whatever it is, Christian, Muslim, whatever, and put that money back into there. And that's the redevelopment fund.
Okay, I gotta hold that thought. Now, what I'm going to share with you is I'm going to give you something different. I'm going to share back during those times you definitely had, even up to now, people that wanted to do those kinds of major things and create those kinds of spaces for people of color, specifically African Americans. But what has happened throughout the years, Sam Cooke murdered, Otis Redding murdered, when Suge Knight and the other Mr. Prince down in Houston wanted to get together and do distribution. Those kinds of things. Things happen to those people to prevent them from doing those kinds of things. So there's forces that are in place to prevent
for sure.
People that look like you and I from being in spaces of power, keyword, or knowing people in those spaces of power to connect with, to create and generate true stability, true monetary gains for your people, to create true process, true ingenuity. So you have that in place. Not saying that, and that's just in the United States. What I'll say is you look in Libya when Gaddafi was killed. Gaddafi was killed only because he wanted to create a currency that would rival the dollar. It would have shut down everything else that they had going on, because it would have forced the world revenue or money to be backed by precious metals, golds, which we know Africa had the majority of. Right. So I don't want to get all into conspiracy things, but that's a fact. That's come out. That's why he was That's why he was killed. So again, it comes back to this misconception of what money is going to do for you and who truly runs things. So I just wanted to say to you that over the years, there have been strong men, strong women that have tried to do these kinds of things, but the powers that be have either killed them or shut it down. But hold your thought. I'm going to let you dive right in on the next segment. I'm going to let you pick right in. But guys, we'll be right back on The Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to The Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. And Simba, we're going to dive right back in. You were saying some really controversial things during the break, and I'm not even going to set it up. Let's go.
I was saying that because you said that every time that African Americans or black people in this country seem to get our stuff together, we get detoured or we get tore down from within, or somebody gets murdered and killed. Yep, because that's life's way of seeing how bad do you really want it.
Really?
Are you black people saying that you want to be free? Wait a second. Are all black people in America saying that they want to be free? Yep. Okay, then move in that direction. Well, this app over here is doing something different. Then you don't want to be free, because I'm going to separate you from the half that you're using. There is no separation of, don't you understand?
So we disagree, we can't move. If we disagree, then we don't want to move forward. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. If we're not moving in a unified front, you can't disagree with America. In America, in this country where we live right now, there is no two halves where you can go to. You might think that. People or your watchers, they might think, oh no, there's Democrats and Republicans. You're an idiot. Because in any other country, when power passes from one hand, when power passes in Egypt, in England, in France, and in the Middle East, anywhere, if somebody loses an election, oh man, wife's killed, brother's dead, baby's thrown off the castle top. Man, but in America,
war starting
in America, we peacefully, oh man, it's your turn. Oh no, it's your turn, Democrat. That's because it's the same team. America don't let you split it like that. There will never be a North and South. No, this is one American thing. We have one agenda. That's to take over the world. So, black people. Now, this is America's perspective. So I ask you, black people, do you want freedom? Yeah. Well, we got Martin Luther King, half of us, and Malcolm. You're done. You're done. Until you guys are all moving as one, you're done. And I will constantly test to see
But
if you're
Simba,
moving as one.
but in order to move as one, we got to start with knowledge of self and knowledge of who we are. And you and I've had a couple conversations in the past, and I'll just share this with you. You got 10 to 20% of you got. I'll start by saying this: you have African Americans in this country that truly believe that the only continent that they were brought in and believe that they were brought from was Africa, and every black person on this continent came over here and changed. And I'm sorry, that's not true. 10 to 20% of us came from through via the African slave trade, and the rest of us, 70, 80% of us were already here and enslaved indigenous people to America. And that's factual in my family. I can trace it all the way back to one side of my
I'm
family
not
tree.
from Africa. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia.
I'm not saying that either. Now you cracking on me, and don't get me wrong. Now, hey, shout out and love to all of that, but I'm just saying that our experiences are as diverse as the complexions that exist within our race, and I want to make sure that we say that. So, in order for us to move as one, which is what you're saying, and I agree with you, and I use the analogy of the open hand. As long as our hand is open like this, there's no progress. There's no real strength in that. But when you close it into a fist and people come together, that's where the true power is. And that's what we need in our community. And and how do we do that? Come together with shared values, with shared experience. We have shared experience, but keyword, shared values. We just have different opinions on how we should go about doing things.
Everything.
You know?
And can I leave your listeners and your viewers with one thought?
Yes.
Just one thought. All your viewers, when you're sitting watching this show, the Conversation Shop, think about this, okay? When you think about what African Americans or Black Americans can't do and all the things that we're fighting, we have never faced the enemy like white people faced, ever. And I want you to know that from the bottom of your heart. My white brothers, the white race, the European race, what they came out of to where they have went, it was with so much fighting. Black people have been trying to wipe these white people off the earth since the beginning of their existence. We have not liked them. The Moors tribe.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Hold on, no, listen. The Moors tribe, the Greeks tribe. Who was the Hannibal in them? What was Hannibal? Carthage. We constantly saw them as a threat because they looked different. And what happened to them is they stopped fighting, came together, and made a conscious effort to survive. It's a fact. I'm a historian. I know about the scramble of Africa, the First and Second Punic Wars. White people, they make up less than 1% of the.
Let's explore that.
I'm ending it on this, Ed. Then I'm going to be done on this, Ed. My white brothers in this world, in the planet Earth, make up less than 1% of this of the world. So how? Right. I ask with my heart, how did they take over the entire planet? It's because they came together with one asserted effort. It wasn't let's some of us over here sell beans. No, shut up and put them beans down. We are all going to America with black people on the boat. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I respect your perspective, but I don't agree with that.
Until black people start thinking like this, like, man, listen, I don't care nothing about your NFL, your NBA, your Death Row, your title, your Spotify, your Instagram. I don't care about nothing. I want freedom. Until we get like that, which is how we were back when we were making things happen, African Americans will never, ever be able to replicate what we did with the civil rights movement.
Well, we can definitely replicate what we did with the civil rights movement and surpass it. We can definitely do that. But what I'll share with you, Simba, is how we going to do it on Xanax, popping pills. What your boy, what old boy Travis is talking about, how we going to do that when everything that we're hearing and the youth is talking about has nothing to do with enlightenment and moving forward. Everybody, not to music, but everybody can't be a musician and make millions of dollars. You got to be something else. What happened to we're so focused on being musicians and athletes, and no knock to either one of those, we've forgotten to be doctors, lawyers, educators, teachers,
Because you don't.
all the
Who gets
things that
this,
we need.
man? You don't get applause when you do good as a teacher or engineer. I said it on your show.
Our
Watch,
value
listen,
system is messed
rewind.
up.
Yeah, the only thing black people in America are masters at, the fields, have to require white people to clap in a big stadium for us.
But why is that? Why is that? Elaborate on that a little bit more for me, real quick.
That's part of the sickness of slavery.
Thank you. I agree.
That's
I
just
wanted
part of
you
the
to say
sickness.
that.
Just like white people have sicknesses that they don't. They're like, why am I do that? Why when black people come around, dang, I don't know why I feel like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know why. Like, I really don't hate them like that, but damn, I just was saying the N word in my head. You know what I'm saying? We have our own sicknesses too, where we see them as such great things because they taught us religion. You know, they're the ones that actually
But see,
gave
that's a
us freedom.
misconception. No, they didn't teach us religion.
No, they did, because I'm talking about Christianity as far as over
Okay,
here in
gotcha,
America.
gotcha,
I'm talking about the American Negro. We learned Christianity from the white people.
Does
We
enslaved
learned
people,
from
yes.
who fought for us. We didn't even fight for our own freedom. A bunch of white and Irish guys. Shout out to my Irish. That's why the Irish don't like black people, is because when the first Irish came to this country, before they could even set their Celtic toes on the freaking soil, on the effing soil, they were handed rifles and told to go fight for civil war for some people. What do you mean? Why aren't they fighting their own civil war?
Well,
You know,
it's simple. You're leaving a whole lot out, and we're gonna have a
tell me
conversation
where I'm
about
left
that.
because I'm going.
That's a whole nother show, but you left a
I'm going through history right
whole
now.
lot out.
We didn't even fight our own civil war, man. Until we duke and knuckle up, man, we're gonna be extinct. Is what's gonna happen. That's what I say. Black people are about to be extinct. There is no God
Let me ask
coming
you
in a
this.
spaceship.
Let me say this. I just got to say this. You brought up the Civil War. I got you, but you brought up the Civil War. I got to speak on that, brother. How are you gonna participate when half of the people are enslaved on plantations, being murdered and killed, and then the other half that could enlist and could run away to try to fight, they actually did. But remember that history is written by the victors. Exactly. I hear you now. I see that.
What Nat
History is
Turner
written
did
by the
was
victors.
Nat Turner was one person. It should have been Nat and Pat and Cat and Scat and Fat and Fat. It should have been a million Nat Turners out there like, ah! What are you going to do? You're not going to do. You can't hold this in chains. You're not superior human. You got a one-shot rifle and you have a plantation with 600 slaves on it. You think you can really take us if we go zombie?
You know what? You will never get an argument with me about some of the mental slavery that's going on.
Chose.
But there's a positive way that we can go about doing all things, the same way that South Africa is going about reclaiming the land in a very positive way and not doing it in a negative, aggressive manner that kills, maims, or harms other people. But guys, we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank Mr. Simba Ali for being my guest.
Thank you, Sam, so much.
Very
it was
good.
fun, like always, brother.
Yeah, man. You like I said, you're welcome anytime you want to be on the show, brother. It's been a blessing. I want to thank you. I want to speak to my guests and thank you for joining us. Hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation that we've had where we were exploring whether women are truly teaching young men of color, specifically black men, how to be men. We spoke of some very positive things, old school education, taking care of your family, paving the way, great things that came from the old school. You know, we explored aspects of teaching us how to survive versus teaching us fear. So hopefully, you know, from this show, we've left you with some things to think about. Again, I want to thank you and see you next time on The Conversation Show.